That's the old burner. This is the new burner. This is the first day that I got to use it, and it was a treat. So, off camera, I was just messing around and realized that maybe I should actually record something. I made a penny scroll and decided surreptitiously to just fuck it up. So I made something that looks like a kidney bean at the end of a rod of metal. You know, because that's a classic piece of architecture. So the forge burner that I'm using is a devil forge. It's meant for a medium-sized forge. I don't really know what that means. I don't really care what that means. The only thing that I care about is it got screaming hot really fast. So today is really just an experimental day. There's not any real plan. I have a bunch of mild steel bar, and I'm going to hit it with a hammer until I am too tired to move my arm. I am hoping eventually that I will have a little bit more endurance for forging for longer. Part of that is practice. Part of that might be a lighter hammer, which is just stupid because you should always use the heaviest. Alright. Sorry. But what I really liked messing with is a smaller piece of mild steel that I could square up, taper down, and get some cool twisties in. And I gotta say, it's very rewarding. It makes an interesting end product. Interesting to me. And someday they might become something else. Or they could just end up being all stuck into a square of clay and just staying there and rusting into shit. I don't really care. They're fun little doodads. And the little hammer that I'm using there is a little 2-pound hammer that I got from Imager's Secret Santa. I think it might have shown up before. I'm not entirely... Oh yeah, of course, I did an entire video on restoring it. This is it in action. It does a decent job. It did warp the face, so I think I'm going to try and completely reheat treat it so that it doesn't warp again. And maybe it doesn't heat treat at all. Maybe it's a block of mild steel from so long ago that they didn't really know that they could do better. But it would be worth a shot. So this is the first time that I've twisted steel in my memory, and 2 little needle nose pliers. They did a good job. I don't know what past Adrian was saying, but I'm sure he was saying something very positive, like, "Yeah, this is working." Apparently, past Adrian was saying things like, "Hot damn," and "recording." You can also see quite actively that anything that stays flat against the anvil, just the heat gets sucked right out of it. Keith is behind me and we're being goofs in the backyard. It's a good time. And when a hammer won't do, tweezers do a pretty decent job. Tweezers. Needle nose pliers. Come on. just makes you feel neat to bend metal. Like, it should be something that you shouldn't be able to do. But all the ways that we've developed to do it are pretty fun, which is one reason why you either found this, or watching it, or wondering why the guy that's talking keeps talking.
Cool.
I don't know why I thought this was a thing that I could do, but apparently it worked immediately. So, I've developed a bad habit now. You're watching it in real time. I cut the piece that I was working on off with the edge of the anvil. And there it is. Got a little twisty, it's got a little hook. It could use a little more shaping. It's not going to focus, dude. Just give it up. Thank you. And apparently just linger on... Oh, there you go. You're just going to linger on that shot for a while, aren't you? Yep. Although, you are looking at an example of about how fast it takes for that piece of metal to get hot enough to work again. I don't know, maybe 25, 30 seconds. And it really speaks to how hot how hot the forge is, and I really like that. The more research that I do into coal forges and whatnot, those are starting to look like a pretty good option as well. I just don't have room to keep a bunch of coal dry. And like that, it's hot enough to work. A lot of the metal that I use for practice is stuff that I found at, I don't know, not a scrap yard, but a place where scrap is sold. So the long rod of mild steel that I found, it was just at a place called the Scrap Exchange. I bought, I don't know, 3-4 rods for $1 a piece, and they've been serving me super, super well. Behind me is a nightmare noise, which is a sander upside down, and it is being used to grind, you know, some of the backyard things. This is where I learned that grip and torque are very important on twisting something. I mean, who knew? And also heat. Very hard to keep it framed when it's not staying in the same place, Adrian. You can stop whenever. Thanks. I do like razzing myself, I'm not gonna lie. There you are. And even if I don't know what the thing is finished. So, while the forge is screaming hot, and there's still daylight, here's the first genuine attempt at a leaf. The piece of steel, I will completely concede, is way too big for this. I'm back to my big boy Christmas hammer, and even though the size of the steel it's on the large side, it's getting hot enough that it's not anywhere near as laborious to do, and it's just fun. And that hammer is a beast. It does everything that it needs to do and more. And I don't even know the right words. I just really like how it hits. So, all the research that I've done and all the learning that I've tried to do, none of it beats practical experience. And this being the first real attempt at forging a leaf, it's way different to apply what you've seen in person, because you're gonna learn your own answers to questions you've already had based on what you've heard. Yes, shit indeed. Based on what you've heard, as well as what you've seen other people do. You'll realize why they do one thing one way. You'll realize why what you did that you thought would work didn't work. It really is. The learning process isn't completed until you've done the thing that you've been trying to learn. And that lesson continuously gets retaught to me as I do this. And it's funny because, like, I started with making knives. I still make knives. And when I started trying to broaden my my experiences and what I'm learning, this ended up being one of those eye-opening things where this teaches you hammer control, it teaches you patience for sure, but it also teaches you how to isolate material and how to move your hammer in such a way that it's doing more what you want and less of you're not just getting lucky. And that's a big part of a lot of this. When you're making a knife, sometimes if you hit off center, you're going to warp your blade, then you'll lie it back down, you'll flatten it back out, and you'll repeat that process until you have something that's reasonably flat and reasonably the shape you want. But if you have better hammer control, that'll happen less often, based on experiences that I've already had after having done this. And I can only imagine that it gets better from there. So there's no downside to taking time and practicing something inside of the skill set that you want to learn, while also keeping in mind the thing that you want to do. So learning to make leaves will teach me lessons that will completely apply to learning to make knives. More efficiently and better. Alright, so that thing where I'm tapping the hammer on the anvil, I've seen so many other people do it. I'm just like, why would they do that? And the rebound that I get off of the anvil and back up into the air, it's not a lot, but if you're swinging a hammer all day and you give yourself a break by letting your hammer tap the anvil and using that momentum to bring it all the way back up to your ear, I can understand why that would become a consistent nervous habit of blacksmith. It's like, well, I don't want to ruin my arm for the next day, and I have to do this again ad nauseum, so fuck it, I'm just gonna let it bounce. And if it gets back into the air, then it's its own fault. Do I finally turn it into a leaf yet? No, I'm still dicking around with the stem. I think I finally committed to making it its leaf shape now. Yes, I have. One thing I'll say about using this much material is it makes a sizable leaf shape, and the margin of error is bigger, so I can make more mistakes in a smaller amount of area and have it look intentional. And the grinder is on again, which is a-okay. I remember now, the humans behind me, Keith and his boy just made his first knife that he hammered out on the anvil, and he's shaping it to shape, and he's getting a bevel on it, he's flattening a side. It's pretty cool, not gonna lie. Alright, you see how it was there? I'm pretty happy with that.
Even if I'm not great at it, I'm still doing the thing as it is supposed to happen in my head.
So that was past me, and he said pretty much what I'm thinking. Even if I'm not great at it, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. And
oh shit, okay.
I was hoping that this would turn out better, but when I pinched off this little nubbin, that was it. I was done with the leaf. And leaf number 2, which is really successful leaf number 1, is how we're going to end the day. Bye. Thanks for watching. Go hit something with a hammer. Something that should be hit with a hammer.